Hey, what is up, everyone? It's Rich. All right, welcome to part two of my tribute to the artist Dan Green, who passed away sadly recently. And Dan's a favorite artist of mine. I've done quite a few videos on Dan's work. Generally, I think focused on the Marc Silvestri collaboration, but this video covers a whole bunch of artists: John Byrne, Joe Madureira, Andy Kubert, John Romita Jr. There's some really, really incredible stuff in here. This is going to be a long video. I think I have 185 images that we're going to look through. And we'll talk about Dan's work and how good it is. I've done videos, I think even with Kelsey, where we talk about how great Dan was as an inker. It's not easy what Dan did, and at the very least in the collaboration that he had with Marc Silvestri. It's really, really fascinating, the quantity of work that these two produced. On top of the fact that it was very quickly done, and it's like all the information is there. It's really interesting because I I started collecting in the '90s. We'll get into the art in a second. Just give me like a minute or two to just sort of like ground what we're gonna take on and kind of my experience with Dan. If you don't know me, I'm a professional comic book artist. I've been working in the business for about 25 years, so I've been around the block. So I first became aware of Marc Silvestri stuff through Image. And then as I became a bigger fan of his stuff, you find out, oh, okay, he worked for Marvel. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't have a peer group that, like, introduced me to all the history of comics. Kind of had to pluck through it myself. So I bought the Marvel Essential books. And so I had the first two, which the first one is John Buscema, leads into Marc Silvestri, I believe, or if not, the second book starts with Marc Silvestri stuff. And I remember seeing that work and just going like, man, this stuff is so good, but it's so different. And I was seeing a lot of the techniques that evolved into the Image style here in a very almost like primordial state. Like it's like this was like clay coming up from the ground. And then things were built out of that clay. I think that's a pretty good descriptor, where it's like all the information is there, and this stuff is incredibly difficult to learn from. I think until you really become like an intermediate, at the very least, an intermediate level artist, because it's you can't just copy these lines and probably get the solidity that these two get. But anyway, enough of my jammering. So let's get to this. So this is a Marc Silvestri page from Wolverine 38. We're not going to worry about the minutia of what page and issue it is. But anyway, these guys were in a speed race. I really, really do wish that there were copies of Marc's pencils more floating around, because it would really be fascinating to see the sort of A-B comparison of what Marc did, how loose was it, and then what Dan, how he interpreted it and stuff like that. I've actually owned 5 or 6 Dan Green Marc Silvestri pages. So I have actually seen these things up close, and we'll see as we go through here different tools and stuff that he uses. But the stuff is great. I love the way that he does the hair. It's funny because if you watch Super Fun Sunday on my channel, you'll hear Kelsey and I talk a lot about where we would like to see comics go, and a lot of what we seem to gravitate to is this. I hate to call it older stuff, but I mean it is older stuff. Just chronologically, you can't deny the fact that this is from 30, 40 years ago. I guess all close to 40 years ago now. It really feels like comics. Like when you look at it, you go, yeah, this is kind of what it was about. It's kind of like music, where like people will go back to the blues or jazz. It's like you always kind of go back to like the foundation, And the foundation of comics is really kind of this stuff. So one thing that I noticed on quite a few of my originals that I own of these two is that Dan definitely used some sort of marker that would fade, and sometimes fade a lot. You'll see other examples where the ink will not only have changed colors, but it will have faded quite a bit. And I don't know what type of pen it would be in 1984 or whatever, 87, 86. But anyway, but you could tell that this is all India ink. Man, that's cool. And these are all scans off the original art. These are all from Heritage Auctions. So, you know, I don't have some secret, uh, you know, file of I mean, other than the fact that I did the work pulling all these images, which took several hours. You know, this is some beautiful shit right here. I love the calligraphy of the line in here. It's really, really just cool looking. And, you know, I mean, you know, doing the video that we did yesterday. So this is Sal Buscema and Dan Green. And this is from the Avengers 193. You can actually see that some of the pencils are still here. So Sal looks like he went in with blue pencil, sort of laid out the piece. And then here's some of the inks. You'll see Dan's a real versatile inker. You know, the stuff that he did on Madureira and Kubert is right up there with any of the really good image stuff that you might see. And I actually have his inks over Jack Kirby and John Buscema and Bernie Wrightson too. So there's all kinds of like little treats. So anyway, Sal Buscema and Dan Green, pretty cool, pretty cool. Sal is still alive as far as I know. This is Ron Garney and Dan Green. This is from JLA 108, and this is from 2005. Oh, and he inked Rick Leonardi too, which I'm a huge fan of Rick Leonardi's stuff. So those will be fun to see too. But this is nice. You know, this actually. So it says 2005, which I'm sure is an accurate date. This reminds me of like 1996, 1997 art, when the image boom had kind of busted, and then everybody was sort of scrambling to sort of like find their place in comics. But it went for a while, and I mean, you know, there's different approaches to it. This is great. Man, it looks so cool. But yeah, once that kind of had moved through, and as I mentioned in yesterday's video, I think it was for it might not have been, it might have been my Patreon video I did. So this is also Ron Garney. When Hitch and Quietly kind of brought in a new popular form of storytelling, the way that the layouts were, it was a little more cinematic and stuff like that. The comic style started to kind of feel a little like out of step. You know, what worked in 1996 or whatever was sort of became a little like passe. But in 2005, I think that had blown over, and then people were kind of going back to things that they just personally liked. You know, I think there's always an orbit with style and art, meaning that things definitely circle back. I even find just in my own personal interest throughout the year, different months pull me to different ideas. It's very, very weird, but I started to notice it just based on you know, like how Facebook will share memories. They'll go, oh, do you remember in 1998 you shared this? I mean, not that far back, but it was really profound how similar what I would be working on at the time that I would get reminded of that memory. That is so good. God damn, that is crazy good. So this is Rick Leonardi and Dan Green's Supergirl. But, oh, I love that face. You see, like, I didn't even know that this was Rick Leonardi, just glancing at it and how excited I was over it. But Rick Leonardi, if you've never given his work a chance, man, he is great. It's very loose and kinetic, and man, with the right inks, he is just so badass. But it's very suggestive, you know. He's solid too, though. There's another Rick Leonardi. His Hulk's funny. This is a classic Dan Green inking technique, which is these fairly short, more blunt, we'll say that they're brush strokes. I'm not positive that they are, but they look like brush strokes, and they're fairly widely spaced. It's an unusual technique that Dan uses the most. These are actually longer and a little more pointy than the ones that he did on Mark. We'll see these on Marc Silvestri quite a bit a little later in the video. But yeah, like on Mark stuff, he wouldn't pull these as long. And this is great. I love all these the shapes on here with good colors. This would look great. But this in some ways is similar to what Mark and Dan did, which is for someone trying to learn to draw folds, this sleeve makes almost no sense. There's not enough structure here, and there's not enough like I mean there is to have it read like a sleeve with folds or light sort of going on it. I think this one has maybe a little bit more to sink your teeth into. But yeah, I mean, just copying these shapes and putting it on sort of like a silhouette of a sleeve is not going to do you any favors. It's the forms will not match up as good as these guys do it. But it's a combination of Leonardi putting just enough in to make it readable, and then Dan going in and kind of finessing some of the shapes probably. But yeah, it's why learning from some eras of Marc Silvestri are tricky, because it's just more a suggestion of what's going on. This is still Leonardi. This is called DC Universe Decisions. I'd never heard of it, but I would guess that it came out when I was working for DC, because they bought Wildstorm in 2000, and I was there until Wildstorm closed in, I think, 2014, 2016, something like that. This is nice. Leonardi did Spider-Man 2099, which I loved, and this actually has a little bit of that 2099 look. This is great. This almost has like a little bit of a John Romita Jr. vibe with these big chunky shapes. But like, look at his ass here. It's like, makes no sense. But it looks cool. Nice hand. This is cool. All right, it's the files like saved in somehow in like alphabetical order, so it'll be interesting going through this way, because when I saved them, they were very random. Somehow my folder reorganized them, which is unusual. I don't think it normally does that. This is nice. Another real Rick Leonardi. Sandra Hope inked Rick Leonardi for a bit. It's one of the few times that I was kind of like, oh man, that would be fun. Not jealousy, but you know what I mean, where you see someone and you go, oh man, I would have loved to have had an opportunity to work with Leonardi. This is cool. All right, so this is P. Craig Russell and Dan Green, and this is Amazing Adventures 32. Now, I'm not saying that this page is from this year, but as far as I could tell, I was finding work, I think, as far back as 1977 for Dan Green were some of the earliest pieces that I saw. I didn't see anything that I remember from 76, so my guess is that he broke in 77, and 78 maybe was doing more steady work. And again, P. Craig Russell. And I mentioned, and this is Tom Denerick and Dan from 2006. I kind of like this. It's funny. Small, it reminded me a lot of Scott McDaniel. Like when I saw it, like about this size, I went like, oh, is this like a Scott McDaniel page? But it's Tom Denerick, which I've heard the name. I'm not super familiar with Denerick's work, but he's solid, really, really good. Like this Green Arrow guy looks really cool. That's a nice down shot too, with all these people running. I love this kind of, Willis Portacio does this kind of perspective. I actually am a huge fan of this, and Jay Lee will do it occasionally too on his old stuff, which is the vanishing point for this is kind of like right here. So you get these characters are at this angle, meaning that they're like this way, and then these characters, you see their back more. I always thought that was so cool, where you know, like the room sort of you see like the whole perspective. Or I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but I always thought that was really neat. I've actually been trying to squeeze a couple of those shots into Blaster Kid, because I just think it's fun to see the front and then back of people. It's so stupid, but it's the little things, right? It's those little things, the subtleties. This is Mark Buckingham and from Fables with Dan Zinks, and that's a really good pair up. I think they really look nice together. And obviously, Mark Buckingham is very known for his work on Fables, but Buckingham is a great inker too. So there are inkers out there that are really good illustrators that for whatever reason ended up inking. I don't know everyone's different story, so it's difficult to speculate. Or looks like Mark might have re-inked these two panels. I'm not positive, or these two stats. I'm trying to figure out what he did different. It looks almost identical. I mean, it's not identical, but huh. This is a little more solid than this. Like, this gets a little more like surreal. But this is, I don't know why he would re-ink this. It doesn't look that different. I actually kind of like this one better. Let's see. So this is Luke Ross. Luke Ross is a real good pencil. I haven't seen his work in a while, but I always thought that he was solid. This is from Spectacular Spider-Man. Do I have a year on this? I tried to put as much information as good. This is Craven, 253. It's the graveyard with the lions. This was like such a big trope when I broke in. There'd always be like lighting on tombstones with like lions. Very imagey. Alright, this is one of the original pages from Into Shambhala. So the lettering, I was trying to speculate how the lettering was done, but they were actually going in and putting stuff like this. I wasn't sure if the spaces were left on the pages, but based on the 5 or 6 originals that I saw, the paintings were fully realized, and then the things were done over them. But looking at the scan close, this is definitely not canvas. So when we were looking at the art yesterday, there was definitely panels that, at the very least, in between the art, had a canvas texture. But I kind of want to believe that the art itself may have been done on watercolor paper, and I do kind of think that it is watercolor. There were some comments too that people were thinking that it was watercolor, but yeah, I'm wondering if the watercolor pieces were set onto canvas and then shot that way, or that he affixed them, because I don't know if we'll see any in these. This is John Romita Jr. I'd never seen this page before. This is weird. This is almost like the Al Williamson style of inks on him. But really cool shot. I don't know if you just showed this to me if I would ever have guessed John Romita Jr. on this. I probably would have guessed, someone that kind of leans more towards like a P. Craig Russell or Charles Vess, or who was the guy that did? There was a book at Vertigo. I can't think of his name. Pretty good artist, actually. Dean Ornstrom, I think is his name. I don't know how to... Okay, so this is Silvestri. It's so cool. But yeah, this is good shit, man. Look at the buildings. Like, this is so great. I mean, I don't know. It's like so hard to say. Like, if an artist did this now, like, would people go, why are the buildings like all wiggly lines? I don't know. I don't know what how it would be tolerated. It's so weird, you know. You hate that. I mean, there's definitely artists that do it. I mean, I don't know how loose like Ashley Wood's buildings are, but Ashley Wood's someone that comes to mind that does pretty kinetic stuff. I think my point being is that this was considered mainstream art. So mainstream art could have stuff that was this organic is quite a feat, but it just shows how good Mark and Dan were together. I love this stuff. This is so damn. Man, the inks are just so cool on this. No fuss, no muss, man. Just getting it in. It looks so good. I'm having trouble. Oh, there's Beast's head. I was like, I can't find Beast's head. This arm is great. And I love the thick and thin lines. Just, it's like a little thick there, kind of thinner, and then this thick and this. Man, it's just so cool. Look at that. Blump. Little one right there. Blump. Yep, that's good shit. This is nice too. Really, man, it's so cartoony, this figure right here. It's like the gesture is just on it, though. These are great too. All right, so this is John Byrne. There's some really, really fantastic John Byrne stuff that Dan and John did together. So for John Byrne fans, there's a decent amount of really, really good art here. And a quite different style, you know. This is not inked the same way that Marc is. So he definitely had some versatility. What do you see the Madureira stuff? And the Andy Kubert stuff? And Romita Jr. We haven't even scratched the surface of this video. This is going to be one for the ages. This is beautiful. Man, such cool lines. God. So loose. And this, man, these are great. My guess is that this is brush. These look pretty smooth, like brush. Like the hand looks like it was inked with a brush. Some of this might be nib. I don't know. I'm really not good at guessing that stuff, to be honest. But I think a lot of this is brush with some pen. He's cool. Like this looks like pen. I've had people ask me on my own stuff, like, would you use to ink this area right here? A lot of times I can't even remember, depending on the piece. This, in particular, if I used a bunch of different tools. Like, I don't know. I will fake brush strokes with pens sometimes. It's like I can do stuff like this and make it look just like brush with a micron or a Copic multiliner or even a rapidograph. So, but people will see it, or even with hair, I do it where it's actually a pen. Sometimes it depends. I remember Alex Garner telling me when I got to Wildstorm after I had been there for a few months, he pulled me aside one day and he goes, you're so good with a brush, man. He goes, you should become like Wildstorm's like brush guy, and just like really, really own the brush techniques. But I kept that, but ended up being kind of more of a fine line, like a rapidograph look. Man, this hair is great. That was a big compliment from Alex, because Alex to me is like, he's just phenomenal. Yeah, this stuff is so good. This is okay. This would be either. Let me see. I think I'll be able to tell. I think this might be Romita Jr. There was a point where I was getting tired of like putting the names in all the time, and so Romita Jr. and Silvestri were not getting marks. So I'm pretty sure this is Romita Jr. early. This is X-Men 206. It's cool. I like. Yeah, it's signed by John Romita Jr. down here. I love this too. This like little bit of dry brush or like less ink on the brush technique right there. It's really, really cool. It's nice variety. And I was almost going to do this video live. The only downside is that this will be 1440p, and if I did it live, it would save it as 720. So that's no good. We want it as high res as possible. So, but I thought having your interaction would have been neat, and I think this will be Romita Jr. also. Although it almost looks like Jim Lee, but oh wait. Oh, this is Mark. This is Silvestri. Sorry, I was focused on one thing. I wasn't looking at the whole page. It was giving me Jim Lee vibes and was throwing me off. It's like, that arm is so great. It's so fat. Oh, this is such good shit. Look at that hand with the shadows. Oh my god. You can kind of see the pencils underneath here. It's kind of cool. And this upside down head is so cool. We'll flip it. Let's flip it. Look at that. Tough upshot, you know. Those are real tricky angles to do without the head looking like really weird, and they got it really good. And this is, you know, this is an evolution of really what you see on the X-Men work that they did together. The work on Uncanny X-Men was definitely more that primordial sort of thing that I was saying, and then this was actually starting to evolve, where you had Scott Williams and Jim Lee kind of probably doing their thing, and that was like impacting Mark and Dan, and it was sort of going back and forth. I mean, I really feel that when it could have even been Wills and Scott Williams too, you know, because Wills came on the scene like a bat out of hell too. Oh, I love this freaking page. There's a few in here that I would love to own. This is one of them. Oh man. But they've got, I have probably one of my favorite Marc Silvestri, Dan Green pages in here. You'll be surprised, I think, when you see it, because it's not like a big shot of Wolverine. But to me, I used to have a photocopy of it that I hung on my wall forever. But I love the atmosphere of it. But yeah, this is a cool one. The girl. This little girl. She's a troublemaker. But man, this is great. You can see kind of these blunt sort. Well, and these are interesting because if you really look, you can see there's a little bit of white in between them. So these were done with some sort of a pen or something. Like those aren't brush strokes. That's like a pen going back and forth like a zigzag. Not all of them, but these right here, because that white gap is the tell. And he could have gone back in and filled that in, and no one would have known the better. But that wasn't the look that he was going for. The hair's nice. This is cool. This almost has like a little bit of a Barry Windsor Smith vibe up in here. And Barry Windsor Smith may have been an influence on these guys too, as he started doing like Weapon X. It would have been right around the same time. It's funny, this type of background, I used to have to ink so much of this stuff when I first got hired at Wildstorm. Like, it was just the de facto sort of like fill your background in with like I call it the, what I just call it something checks, like rice checks background. But it's like spend 90 minutes freaking inking these stupid things. These didn't take that long, but yeah, I was like, I don't know if I've ever used that on the background of any of my pieces. I do fades, but not this with the kind of the tapered lines that go into the black. I don't know if I've ever done it. This is nice. He does such a good Jubilee. Everyone says too. It's funny. At Comic-Con, we were talking about Mark and Dan, and everyone loves Mark's Colossus. Like, I think universally he's considered one of the best Colossus, but his Jubilee is on point. She's got the right amount of sass. She looks the age. She's cute. She's spunky. She looks like she's a little bit of a handful. He nails it. Don't fight, you assholes. Sorry, my cats. They're excited that I'm back on the YouTube. Wolverine's like arm got gigantic and this hand is huge. Oh, look, he's drinking Moosehead beer. Out of the can, no less. Head and antlers above the rest. That was their tagline. You can see the word balloon here came off. And unfortunately, the glue yellows. There are chemicals. There's art restorers that can put something on this and it will actually pull it off. Remove the yellowing. So if you had a real nice page, you could actually get it sort of fixed up a little. I apologize for yawning. It got up kind of early. He's like, you should have slept in. I woke up early. I don't know what to tell you, sir. That is so cool. For whom the bell tolls, time marches on. All right, this is Al Williamson and Dan Green. What a crazy combo this is. So this is from the Blade Runner movie adaptation, but it's Al Williamson pencils with Dan Green inks. And I've got about 5 pages, I think, of this. It's pretty cool stuff. It's very, very different because Al clearly was using like some sort of photo reference, so it's pretty accurate to the movie. But man, it's some beautiful drawings. Really, really cool shit. The likenesses are on point, but it still feels fun. Like it's not like bad photo realistic or whatever you call it. Not photorealistic, but yep, pretty cool. And we'll see more of these as we go along. All right, so this is Madureira. This is just dipping our toe in the Madureira pool. I've got quite a few of Joe Mad and Dan, and this is from, I didn't mark it. Shoot, what was this from? Someone will know in the comments. I can't remember if this is X-Men or something else. Does it say at the top? No, it's trimmed. You can definitely get the Madureira vibe from this, though. I mean, there's like, this is a pretty busy page for Joe as he moved along in his career. Although some Battle Chasers pages had this much stuff, or maybe like the Marvel stuff that he did after Battle Chasers. But this downshot panel with the shadows and stuff to me is classic Mad. This too. This is, oh shoot, oh, Michael Golden. Yeah, Michael Golden pencils. Now it's credited as Al Milgrom inks, or yeah, no, scripting Michael Golden, pencils Milgrom, or well, how are they reading this? Okay, Milgrom and Shooter are the editors. Michael Golden pencils, Dan Green inking. It's weird that they credited Dan before Golden. Like, that's very unusual to see credits with like the inker's name first. Literally too. I mean, like where it's like Dan Green inking, Dave Michelini final plot, Michael Golden pencils. But yeah, that's you don't often see it organized that way. And as I mentioned in yesterday's video, I do have the Michael Golden Artist Edition here. I've not looked through it yet, so we'll do that upcoming as an open that book. But yeah, it's here. It has arrived. I'm very curious to check it out. Excited. So it'll be cool. Can you imagine having that much discipline that I can actually have that book here and not have looked at it yet? It's been here for two or 3 days. Open that book is not a fake thing. It's real. Alright, this is Jack Kirby. I had no idea that Dan had inked some Jack Kirby. That would have been a lot of fun. And this is Silvestri. I for some reason I didn't recognize this piece. I don't know if this was a pinup. I don't think I have credits for it. What it was. I don't think this is a cover, unless it was. Well, it does have that cover thing. Maybe it was a cover for an issue that they didn't draw or something. But I don't know. For some reason, maybe if I saw it in color, I would recognize it. But pretty interesting. Like, I actually really do like this look. God damn. I wish I want more of this in my stuff. It's hard to do. I just don't draw like this. I mean, my pencils maybe, but like it's almost like you have to relearn inking. I don't want to copy this, to be clear. I'm just saying that I wish that I had elements of this in it. It's just hard to blend it in, you know. It's like I love how this looks. I'll get there. right, this is the weird. This might be Wrightson. I think this is Wrightson. Let's see. I didn't label it. I think this is Byrne Wrightson. But it's Wrightson in like the 2000s or 90s. So we're not talking 70s Byrne Wrightson. And this may not even be Wrightson. The book is called The Weird. Someone will know. Someone named Russ Works. There's others too. All right, this is Silvestri. I recognize this. Look at the wolf. He's like, that's cool. His face. All right, we got Dazzler, dazzling all of us. This is like some sort of futuristic cell phone. What the hell is this? What's she holding? Magic mirror? Guess it's a mirror. The Dazzler mirror. I don't know. I don't really know anything about Dazzler, to be honest. I know her neck is long here, though. That's for sure. It looks good, though. I like the lighting on her neck. Pretty face, as always. Mark always draws very, very fetching ladies. Ah, this is a cool page. Wolverine 34. He's got his hand on the rocks. Nice kind of diffusion going on with the lighting. Some cool shadows. Very, very loose trees, but it looks fine. This is good. Kind of a Zafino vibe here. Man, his crotch area is so weird. Look at that. And who cares? That's the magic of it. It's wild looking. It's okay. That's really cool too. Man, look at that arm. Whoo, that is cool shit. Chunky style. No need for minutia when you've got big beefy shapes. Going up the hill. He's going up the hill. This was smart to leave this open right here. If he put it into the thing, it could create a very weird look. Like that's much better. This is interesting too. Not having a panel border here, it works really, really well. Really great call. In fact, it's funny because you can see like here, this could have just been an inking thing where he pulled it too long. But it really works nice. Man, these trees are great right here, too. Man, the face is so good. Fucking Mark. The man with the plan. That's great, too. Yeah, I'm wondering if this came out right after Winter World with Zafino. This has very much a Winter World vibe. This is cool. I love this right here. This guy falling down. Man, that's a great figure. Fuck. It's cool too because like Mark is like a big Byrne Wrightson fan. Mark is a big Frazetta fan. Mark is a big fan of like that type of stuff, and he just gets just a little bit of it in his work, and it really, really just creates some awesomeness. Buscema is a heavy influence on Mark's earlier work. Man, it's a great face. Inks are beautiful too. Look at these lines. Man, it's so good. Some really interesting calligraphy going on in here. Just like there's no line is really like dead. You know what I mean? Like each one of them has got like you could circle any one of them. They're all just fun to look at. Even in here, and here, he's just got all kinds of cool little strokes and blips, and they're not really blip blops. Blip blops to me are more rounded ones, But I mean, everything is just so lively, and then it really is a solid face too on top of it. Got the girl, same thing. Like, look at her lips. How energetic that is. All of this. All right, this is Silvestri. The stars are funny. They're very big. Okay. All right, this is more Blade Runner. So this will be Al Williamson pencils, Dan Green inks. Some really cool shit. The idea of those two guys collaborating on a project is pretty insane. God, that is so good. All right, this is Herb Trimpe. This is Shogun Warriors. I have a few Shogun Warriors pages. The Shogun Warriors stuff was 1979, which surprised me to see 79. The reason being is I would have thought Shogun Warriors was later, but it's interesting that Marvel really pounced on that. But who knows when it came out in Japan? But there's some really cool. For some reason I never really realized that Al Milgrom was an editor at Marvel. I knew it, but kind of forgot it. But it's tripping me out. So I always think of Al Milgrom as an artist or an inker. I think this is more Mark. You can see a little bit of the lines fading here. Yeah, at some point he started using a pen that did not age well. Like I said, I owned about 5 or 6 pages, and anything that he used those pens with, like tables and stuff like that, they all had faded and turned a weird color. But it's not uncommon to see that on some of the things. Like, you can even see it here. Like the straight lines and the balls were done with it. The balls didn't fade as bad, but they're starting to. That's a great Wolverine. His hands are so cool. I mean, it's like a suggestion of a hand, but it works so good. Those nice thick lines. Pay up, ladies. She's tired. This guy's great. Fun. Alright, let's see what we got here. These guys are so cool. The bikers look great. She looks like she had like, oh, she's getting tired. She needs to charge her batteries. He did a good job with her face, though. She looks sweepy. Alright, this is Gene Colan. And Dan Green. I told you there was a variety. This may take 90 minutes to get through. I don't feel like we've gotten through too many pages yet. I like this. That's really cool. Gene Colan is a real interesting artist. I like his stuff and always kind of want to try to learn from it. But he's got a pretty big body of work and it's spread out. There's a few, I think they're Doctor Strange issues that he did that I really like. I don't remember what issues they are. So we got some more of the Nazis and Lady Deathstrike. This is really cool. I love her hand. This is so cool. Good. All right, friends, let's continue. Mojo, what are you doing here, Mojo? It's like I was in the book, Rich. Don't you remember? Like, of course I remember. Jubilee here looks a little funny. I've always felt like, when this isn't a great page to do it, but I've always felt like there's a little bit of Norman Rockwell in some of Marc Silvestri's stuff. if I spot any Rockwellisms, I'll show you what I'm talking about. But in particular, when he was at Marvel, I got the impression that maybe he looked at that Rockwell at some point. It could be wrong, but some of his clothes and feet and the way that he would do legs and stuff like that is kind of where I keyed in on it. This is probably this is Byrne, I think. Shoot, I don't want to guess. I can't remember on this one. If I'm it's either Byrne or I think John Romita Jr. It looks a little John Byrne-ish to me, but I don't know. I'm not a very good John Byrne expert. In fact, I'm not an expert. All right, I know this is Al Williamson and Dan. Some of this actually, it's funny. Like, I don't know if Al was kind of trying to get a little bit of the Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein stuff, but he seems to be using some similar like negative. It could just be the high contrast of it, but really cool shit. Really cool. I like it a lot. All right, we got Marc Silvestri. And Dan, of course. $600. This page was a steal back in the day. You wouldn't get this for $600 now with Wolverine on it. 2 power-packed artists. That's so good. It's such a fascinating approach to drawing. Like I said, I would just kill to see the pencils of this stuff. Because I have pencils of Mark from the Image era that are interesting, but it's just not drawn like this. They're really not. There's not a lot that some of the small stuff maybe, but I don't know. It doesn't have the same vibe. Man, it's cool. But again, it would be very, very challenging to study this stuff and actually learn from it. You'd have to learn to draw and then kind of come back to this and then see how he interprets the things that you already know is probably the best approach, to be honest, because it's too many shapes. There's bits and pieces you could take from it, of course, but that's cool. Some nice dry brush on her arm. Her hand's pretty big, but Romita Jr. I like this. Is pretty cool. Actually, even the shoe. The inks like right here are great. Alright, this is I think this is Andy Kubert. Maybe John Romita Jr. Oh, it's hard to tell. So the Kuberts, they're so good at like folding styles into their own work. God, this is a tough call. I'm thinking this is Kubert. If anyone knows, let me know on this one. The double page spread. I can't imagine John Romita Jr. would draw this much shit. It's great, whoever did it though. Man, it's a really beautiful page. But I'm leaning towards that it's Andy Kubert. Does it have a page number? No. Darn, I thought I guess I assumed I would remember some of these better than I did. Because it's like, I feel like there's a little Bacalo in here too. Some of the faces and stuff feel like Bacalo. And then it feels a little like John Romita, and then like I said, the the Kubert boys are really good at like intermixing styles into their work. This is Mark. This almost doesn't completely feel like Dan's inks to me. There's Dan isms in it, but some of it feels a little heavy-handed for Dan. I'm not convinced that this is Dan Green. I mean, it kind of looks like his stuff, and it kind of doesn't to me. This kind of does. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. When you're in the heat of battle, anything can happen. So this is Madureira. Pretty crazy shit. This stuff would be a pain in the neck to do. More likely you would do it with the side of the brush. So you can take the brush and sort of set it down, and then you scoot it sideways. So you lay the brush down like this, and then flick it that way, and the thickness of the brush will create these type of shapes. Same with these. It's the same technique. Lay the brush down, and then pull it that way, and you'll get that. I'm doing that with a mouse. But that's nice. Nice hair. Nice hair. And silhouettes. Joe Madureira is the silhouette king. One of them. Alright, this is Mark again. Cool shit, man. This is cool, cool, cool. I like this. See some fading on this one. Here's a good example, though, of like an inker using a tool that you might not have suspected that he was using, but the hands were clearly inked with the marker. But he mimics the line weights and stuff that he would do with a brush. So he's, if this was jet black, it wouldn't really look that much different than maybe even how he inked the face or whatever. But because the ink is suspect, we see that actually was done. But you can see right here, these lines were done with ink, or like India ink, and this line, like right here, was they haven't turned. And this one's got quite a bit of it on it. What's interesting is the fact that he had this pen. I'm surprised that he didn't outline like this stuff with that pen, because it would be a fast way to do it. Like if I had this pen out and I had a big black silhouetted figure, although once you put black ink in, it could kind of maybe like make the edges not as noticeable that they're going to fade. But you know, something like this you could outline really, really quick with like a marker, and then just fill in the blacks with a thing. It doesn't look like he does that though. But again, it's difficult to tell because the black ink going right up to the edge of it might be hiding it in these scans. In person, you might be able to see it more, but it doesn't look like it's me. More Mark and Dan. And this is I don't know. Oh, this might be Wrightson. I think this is the Wrightson story. Yeah, this looks like Wrightson. I think this is Byrne Wrightson. I want to say this is from 1996 or 2006, somewhere in that window, if I remember correctly. This is more Mark. Oh, that is so good. Man, that is a great face. This is cool. Look at that. Just incredible work. Wogan? Oh, Wogan, I promise I will come back with help as soon as I can. Oh, right. This is on different paper. This is probably from, well, I was going to say, is this from X-Men? Yeah, this is X-Men. I was right. It's got Wolverine on it, but it's X-Men page. But I was going to say, this is different board because it yellowed way more. Probably not from age, but actually from, well, it's hard to say. I don't know if word balloons are yellowing, it probably could affect the integrity of the whole page, where even though it's not bleeding like specifically from there, it could make the whole page yellow, like the fibers just start to go. But again, really, really kick-ass inks. So feels good to do this tribute to Dan. And again, I gave Dan a lot of love throughout the years when he was following my channel and commenting. So I'm happy that he knew how much that not only I appreciated his work, but everyone that followed my channel. So he definitely was aware and knew that I was, you know, out there making sure that people were being exposed to this stuff if they hadn't seen it. This is... I had a big stretch of lazy. I don't know who this is. Iron Fist. Oh, this will be John Byrne. Some of these Iron Fist pages are really, really expensive. Like, they were super, super expensive originals. This is probably Romita Jr. Oh, no, this might be Rick Leonardi. This looks like a little like Leonardi. Leonardi's got kind of a weird, like, sort of exotic, like, look to his stuff. This kind of feels like Leonardi. It's nice. I love that it's so open. I actually had to do some hospital... I don't know if they were hospitals. I don't remember. It's been a while, but I've had to draw stuff like this before. I tend to do everything tight, but I actually like how, like, open the lines are and things are kind of, like, more... Like, the room is so bright that the lines are kind of decaying. It looks better. Live and learn, friends. Live and learn. You can't learn, though, if you haven't tried it. That's the thing. You think you're learning, like, you know, you hear something like that, but you kind of have to make the mistakes on your own. Because then you remember how you did it, and that you didn't like it, but you couldn't, you know, maybe at the time you couldn't come up with a better idea. And then you'll see someone do it, and you'll go, ah, that looks better. Okay, maybe next time I'll do it like that more. This is Silvestri and Marc. 1992. This, I'll tell you what, this is right at the very end, man. 1992, Marc started working on Cyberforce. So this is the clock is ticking. Tickety tick tick ticking. Let's see if it says what issue this is from up above. 55. Yeah, he's out the door, man. Todd McFarlane's going to call right as he finished this page. I got an idea. Or whoever called Marc. Or maybe, did they run into Marc? I don't remember the story of how Marc got... Was Marc, like, just happened to be there? And they're like, hey, we're going to go quit and make a bunch of money. Do you want to come? He's like, yeah, okay. Madureira. Mad Dog. Mad exclamation point. Nice water. This is cool, too. Alright, we've got Wolverine 36. This is at least a year and a half before the end. Well, this says 1/15/88, but I don't know if that's when they actually drew this page. It's possible. But I think it's probably the paper, when that paper stock was made. Who knows? So this is Doctor Strange. Gosh, who did the Strange? Is this Colin? I can't remember. This is Gene Colan, I'm pretty sure. Pretty heroic looking. Nice thighs. Nice meaty thighs. Man, that's a comic book thigh right there. Look at that. How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way was like all about that big chunky thigh. Right, more Mark and Dan. Obviously, it's all Dan. I'm just trying to let people know what penciler it is. As we move along, the pieces are going to get more expensive and better too, because the way that the files were, I went backwards through Heritage, so the lower numbered files will be the cheaper pages, and then we get to the expensive ones at the end. So hang tight, my friends. This is Bernie Wrightson. So weird seeing Wrightson draw this type of stuff, like, superheroes with capes. I mean, I know that he did it, but it is interesting. But you can tell. Again, just an insane combination of the fact that these such good artists collaborated. In particular, because I think what's interesting about, like, say, Wrightson and Dan Green, or Al Williamson and Dan Green, is both of those artists are very self-sufficient on their own. So when you pair up with someone who's phenomenal at both, it creates pretty high expectations of what the pairing might bring. You definitely have to rise to the occasion and be on par with that. This is great. Yeah, I'm thinking that at this point he was vibing off Zafino. It very much could be a coincidence, but I bet if you check the dates, Zafino was starting to bubble up and become more someone that he was aware of. Classic comic page right here. That's cool. I love little silhouettes like this. Perfect. It's so good. Alright, a little more Al Williamson and yeah. It's like he's got like a shot glass. Look. Okay, this looks like John Boyne. This page sold a few times. I remember seeing it in completed auctions a couple of times, at least twice. It's funny because like for me, when I see some of this old John Byrne stuff, I'll see like little things that Jim Lee learned or used. Not one for one, but just like you go, oh, like that's kind of like the Jim Lee, like when Jim Lee drew this thing. This is cool. This is refreshing to see. Okay, this is the page we started with. Beautiful, beautiful inks on this. But yeah, we're starting to get the more expensive stuff now. You're going to start to see more key pages and things like that. Oh man, that's great. Look at that pose right there. Mark does such good ninjas. You can see those shorter, like almost shark tooth type rendering that Dan does. They're very thick. And these are just beautiful brush lines. And this, you're starting to see that Willis Portacio kind of influence on the stuff. You know what I mean? It's definitely, you know, that's starting to have an impact on this work. This is Matt Herrera. Another just really, really psycho detail on this. Really crazy. Would be interesting to see how Matt Herrera penciled this too. I would be curious of how if he just did with the side of the pencil, sort of stroked in some of the blacks for the more shaded areas. This is Jim Starlin. Or no, I'm sorry, written by Jim Starlin. This is Bernie Wrightson and Dan. Mark. This is one of my favorite issues. I think this is from 50. He's creepy. Oh, so good. The position of the motorcycle and Nick Fury looking at him. This is great. The way that this leg is drawn is just fantastic. God damn, so good. These two together were just, I'm so glad it happened. Obviously, there were other great inkers at Marvel that could have done, you know, I'm sure fine work on Mark, but man, this stuff had some personality. Chemistry, you know. I felt that way with Chris Bachalo and Mark Buckingham. It was funny because I really enjoyed what those two did together, and still to this day, although Chris has done many, many great things and had a lot of great inkers throughout the years, there was like they really kind of tapped into something cool with how gritty that Generation Next work was. And it's like similar to this, you know, where Mark got more refined, it got more detailed, it got more polished as it went along. But you know, Jay Lee on Namor, people still to this day will always say that that's some of their favorite work of his. And you know, he was just rushing to get stuff done and trying to, like, you know, like not get fired from, you know, a job at Marvel essentially. And in that panic, kind of like struck gold, you know. But he got better. I mean, technically, he got much better as an artist as he went along. But there's like a cool factor. So sometimes speed and deadlines can actually create a perfect storm of kind of, you tap into something magical. Because as I mentioned yesterday, there was a point, I think it's on X-Men. I don't remember it being on Wolverine, but or was it Wolverine? They were doing 2 books a month, Dan and Mark. Now, 2 books a month is a lot of work. And I know people will say Jack Kirby could do 130 pages in a day. In fact, many days he did that. It's a little different. A little different. Oh, this is so good. But I would say that this stuff is closer to the level of detail that Jack would have done back then to do, say, 6 to 9 pages a day or whatever his record was. I mean, a fast penciler could maybe pencil a page like this in 2 or 3 hours. But, you know, you when you do something like that, unless you have superhuman stamina, at some point you're going to burn yourself out. You know, you might be able to do it for a couple of days, but at some point all that mental energy that it takes will exhaust you. So, you know, I mean, and granted, Kirby was a beast. You know, the guy clearly had the fortitude of like a, you know, a dwarven warrior or something. So they're known for their high constitution. It's a Dungeons and Dragons reference, but yeah, you know, like his stamina was obviously insane. And look, after fighting in World War II, drawing comic books was a walk in the park for him. I'm sure, you know, where it's like, you're tired because you had to draw for 9 hours. Come on, dude, like seriously. But you know, not everybody goes through that experience, so tired. Tired can have many different meanings. This is like I my pages had stuff like this where it was like super faded. But you know, at times this stuff reminds me of like just the tiniest bit of like Batman Dark Knight, like a little bit of like what Klaus Janson and like Frank Miller did on it, where you know, if you, I have the artist edition of it, and yeah, I mean you definitely can see some similarities to like what Klaus and Frank did. Could just be coincidental though. Oh, this is some classic shit right here. Cover for this book. Now that would be maybe not a record-breaking auction, but for Mark's work, oh, I bet the cover for the Wolverine Crucifixion cover, holy shit, that would go for a lot of money. That could creep up to close to $1 million, I think. I think that it could go for between 300 and 600,000. I'm looking out the window, imagining. I don't think it would go for more than 600K, but it could go for a lot. I think it's a very iconic piece. And if it went for less, I think there's wiggle room for growth in the future. So 1987. There we go. Wolverine. This is when Mark's stuff is slowly starting to meld with like the Jim Lee style, or vice versa, however you wanna. I don't know who started to dip their toe in this first. You could go back and kind of reverse engineer it. This is 91, but you know what I mean? Like if you looked at Jim Lee and say like 1988, and then you looked at Mark in 88, and you could see like who started adding the run. And again, it could be Wills Portacio. Wills might have come in with Scott Williams, and those two might have influenced Jim and Mark at the same time. It's very possible. I don't know. It would be worth exploring, since I'm the one throwing out the idea. I've never seen a channel actually address that, but it would be interesting to see which of those three started to bring in the hyper rendering first. Like, how did it evolve? And honestly, I mean, you could really almost go issue by issue. I've talked about this before, but I shared an office with J. Scott Campbell, and Jeff definitely was keeping an eye on Michael Turner. Not that he was going to draw like Turner, but he was always curious of like what new covers Turner had done in previews, and you know, what, like, was he doing a book? Was he doing this? Was he doing that? And so I'm sure that these artists, in a similar way, where there was probably a healthy, you know, competition of like, ah, shit, did you see that Wills Portacio X Factor issue? I need to step it up, man. And just everyone grows because of it. So this is Jim Lee and Dan. Speaking of Jim, this is 89. You can start to see this. When did the waggle? Who threw the first waggle? that kind of zipper effect. So this is Rick Leonardi, Dan. This is Supergirl. What year is this? Oh no. Another Leonardi. Well, hopefully this is fun for everyone, and you getting kind of like, someone says a little bit of an Ed McGuinness vibe. It's funny. Both of these figures feel like McGuinness. That's interesting. Dan would have done a good job on McGuinness based on what I'm seeing here. All right. Marc Silvestri. We've got some interesting yellowing. It's weird that the razor blade almost like created like I don't know if there was. It's interesting that see that to me means that I think the paper is yellowing underneath the surface. The surface is actually maintaining the white, probably because of the plate, but where this razor blade skipped over it and created these little divots, you can see that it really affected the paper. Now the glue, and see, you can see them up here too. The glue on this, what it's doing, I think it's seeping into the board and it's rotting it's rotting from the inside out, basically, or whatever, discoloring. This is a word balloon that came off. But yeah, that's really interesting because the blade is clearly, because the surface has been removed, it's yellowing underneath. But see, like here's a page from approximately the same time, although this is lettered on the board, so maybe not. This is nice paper, and this is that 11588 paper, so that's when that batch came in, or when they made it for Marvel. But they might have ordered thousands and thousands of sheets, so it's very possible that this could have been used. Well, it's issue 52. It would have had to have been at least 1991 at this point. So this is paper that was made, in theory, a few years earlier. Now, it may not have been made, but they may have like set up all this and then just dated it. Because when I got hired at Wildstorm, there was the Image Comics paper said EL 94, I think, initially. There was some stuff that didn't have that, but the EL standard for Eric Larson 94, I believe. This is Romita Jr. This is funny. It looks almost like Liefeld. MILF? What? Quick, there's a MILF. Run. Yeah, so they would, I think, just I don't know what the reasoning would have been back here. Maybe just for paper consistency, so that they would know what they were using. Hard to say. Some nice brush lines right here. The big brush lines. You can see a little bit of almost like blue here. So this was a different pen than even the other one that he used. This might have been done by the letterer. It's possible when the letterer put this lettering down, he had to color around it. And so this is, yeah, it is. It's the letterer. Whatever pen the letterer used turned blue. Shame on you, letterer. You dirty rat. Dirty rat letterer. This is great. So interesting. It's so stylish. Like the ink lines, like on the hands. Look at this. Really, really interesting. This too. You can definitely see this stuff in Mark's Top Cow work. Like at this point, he's actually doing things that are very similar to what he does at Top Cow. They'll be inked differently as he starts to move through different inkers. Scott Williams initially, then Bat, Joe Williams, all the different inkers that inked them. This is Romita Jr. This is Romita Jr. too, I think. How many more pages do we have? Holy shit, are you kidding me? My God. How about this? Just what I'm going to do, I'll do this page. We're going to open the next page. I'm going to run to the freezer really quick. I'm going to grab my iced coffee. I need coffee. I've got coffee chilling as a reward for the end of this video. This is so long. I need a coffee break. Okay, so I'm going to leave it on this. I'll be back in literally less than 60 seconds, but I'm just going to go grab my coffee. Hold on, friends. Just enjoy. You know what? Go grab yourself a beverage real quick. All right, I'm back. See, that was pretty fast. It was probably less than 30 seconds. I can't pause OBS. That's the problem. Is when I record with OBS, it's like you're on and you just go. So This is nice. Again, this stuff all reminds me of Winterworld. It could be a coincidence just because of the topic, and that it's people running around in the snow and the forest and stuff like that. So I could be projecting, but I kind of don't think so. Kind of don't think so. I don't know how much of a nudge Mark had in terms of what the stories were in Wolverine, because it is possible that Winterworld may have come out and he might have said to the writer, "Hey, I want to do something like this." You know, I don't know what their relationship was, so it's very difficult to see. You can see that a word balloon actually came off here, which isn't uncommon. Although it's funny because I'll be honest, like looking at, like say this right here, it's a little hard to see that it's a paste up. I mean, you can when we zoom in, but the lettering is pretty good. This is cool, man. You can see that he was kind of getting into Mignola too, because this is starting to feel a little bit like some of the Mignola work from the '80s. You know, Mark and I have a lot of like similar favorite artists. It's funny, but we definitely seem to vibe off of the same type of work. This is great. Look at that. Man, that is so cool. And this feels, again, very Mignola. Mignola was doing some great Batman covers around here, or did at least one or two Batman pieces that were so badass. Oh, this is great. I love these issues. And these guys, these monsters are right out of like a Wrightson. Fucking Mark, so good. This kind of has like a little bit of a Frank Miller vibe. This too, actually. That's funny. I never really I didn't put that together, but it kind of it has like almost like a little bit of like a Ronin. I can't remember what year Ronin came out, but like it's like Ronin and in a way, Frank kind of circled back to this on 300 too, because some of the 300 art looks like this. Obviously, this Silvestri thing was done before 300, but 300 has a little bit of that vibe. I don't know if Mark was like a Will Eisner fan. I don't really see much of it in his work, but I'm not much of an authority on Will Eisner's work either. I know it at more of a superficial level, but obviously Frank Miller was a big Eisner guy. Man, this is great. This is so cool. I would never leave something this open, and it looks so good. I would feel like it needs more. Apparently it doesn't. This is cool. Dun 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 dun. Alright, this is... pretty sure this is Wolverine. This is one of the later issues. Hello, pussycat. Look at this. Probably Mark. This is nice. It's actually really cool. Wow. It's so fascinating to me. Comics is such a trip. Oh, this is great. I remember when I saw this, I was like, yes. Well, this is a great video. Man, so much good art. Ooh, we're getting close to my favorite page. These issues are so good. But look at how crazy the inks are on this. Like right here. It's so abstract. And these guys look so cool. I'm all about that. All about that. Look at this dude. Creepy spider tattoo on his face. Look at him. Man, he's evil. She's like, you're evil. He's like, he's evil for sure. Uh-oh. The monkey. Oh, the monkey's scared. I'd be scared too, monkey. They're not going to do good stuff with you. hand gesture. This one is a weird scan. Got a little gray. This is Byrne, I think. X-Men. Maybe, well... Do I have it marked? No. I was bad. We're getting towards the end of my, I think this is John Byrne. But it could be Ramita. We're getting towards the end of these files, though. These are the more expensive. We already saw this piece, so this must have sold twice. Still really cool, man. Some crazy anatomy, like the legs. This is some wild shit, but it actually looks really, really cool. And again, I never noticed that Rick Leonardi and Ed McGuinness have a tiny bit in common. I wonder if McGuinness was a fan of Rick Leonardi's stuff. So they're not that similar, but there's definitely some McGuinnessness in this. McGuinnessness in this. So this feels like a lot of panels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7's a lot for back in the day. Starts to feel a little too much. As weird as that sounds, but like, and I'm kind of guilty of this because even this feels like a panel, even though it's not. But 7 panels, I think, is, or it's 8 panels, or no, it's 7. I'm sorry. This thing is throwing me off. This thing right here looks like a panel, but still, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, this almost feels like this is on the cusp for me of too much detail on a page. Sounds funny because, you know, detail is detail. This is Ramita Jr. He did actually ink something over John Romita Sr. I can't remember if I saved it or not, but I think I saw at least one piece. This is from those really, there's like 3 issues of Wolverine. 32, 33, 34, I think. Oh, they're so good. Oh, she's so badass. Who is this? Fuck. I can't remember. Maybe Byrne. When I don't know, I just guess John Byrne. I think this is John Byrne. Alright, Mark. Mock in the Dark. Some interesting technique on the buildings. Man, this is fascinating. Look at the line, like the ink lines here. So, like, it almost reminds me of, oh gosh. Like Jeff Smith Bone. Like some of the inking on like Bone had this sort of vibe. It's like real cartoony. Bone looks very different than this, but that's great. Face. He makes it look so easy. They both do. This is the page. This is one of my favorite Marc Silvestri pages of all time. I wish that these 2 panels maybe were a little bit different. I don't mind her. I think this is probably my least favorite panel on the page, but this up here is just, I love this. But I had a photocopy of this and one other page from, I think, Wolverine that I had hanging up around my desk for years. But, this is just the shit. So, for whatever reason, this one connected with me, and I had to see it every day forever. And these aren't bad panels by any means, but, yeah, I don't know. The rain, just the whole thing. It feels a little Blade Runner-ish, funny enough. So we'd seen some of the Al Williamson, Dan Blade Runner. This is cool. I actually like the drapery here. It's a little hard to read. I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at right here, to be 100% honest. I think this is a shoulder, and this is an arm, this is a forearm. I can't tell. I don't know. Is this the head, like horns and an ear? Oh, he's a bullfighter. It's a bull? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing a bull there, to be honest, but... Oh, this is so good. Fuck. That is crazy. What a scene. I almost want to see how that worked out. You know they didn't kill Wolverine, but still. Now we have to grab that book out and refresh my memory. This guy's face is getting bigger. He's turning into... I wonder if Miller was doing Sin City and Dark Horse Presents yet. Like, what year was that? I couldn't even guess. It's before I was collecting comics. I really don't know. Oh, this is cool. Crunch, 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 crunch. Mojo. Yeah, this is right at the end of when Mark bailed Marvel. I'd be curious if Dan was asked to go to Image with Mark, or if Mark split and just decided that he would sync up with Scott Williams. You know, like, I don't know what the circumstances would have been, because Mark, I think, inked the first Cyberforce issue himself, and then I think Scott came on and helped finish the mini-series. Here's one of Dan's painted pages from the Doctor Strange thing. But again, no word balloon spaces or anything like that. And again, you know, I think my speculation is right on this, because remember I was saying like how tight the crop lines were on it. I think somehow these were pulled out and then statted onto canvas is what it looks like to me. I can't be sure. I'd have to go and look at this exact page, but I don't remember seeing any panel borders that had this kind of debris on them, like this much of a wobbly line. And I mentioned that there was canvas material. Here's another one. This all looks like it's done on hardboard, like crescent board or some kind of like... See, this has a little bit more of the panel border. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely, if you went back and forth and looked at the two, you'd be able to tell how this was done. And this page may be as is in the book with some word balloons on it. These definitely look better than the print job on it. Definitely the colors shifted and stuff like that. I think that these look way better. But again, you can see, look how much stuff is in the gutter here. But yeah, it's not as pink. These have a little bit tighter panel borders. But look how much more vibrant the colors are. This is crazy with this mosaic. Oh my gosh, he's bananas. Cool idea. Very cool effect. This is nice. Looks like he was selling these in 2020. Right. We got what looks to be gosh, who is this? This will say this is John Bogdanov, who's a great a bit of a under the radar artist to some people, but John Bogdanov is a very, very good penciler. This is also John Bogdanov. Yeah, I had a Superman book that John had done, like a pirate story, I think, and it was so good. It was like an Elseworlds thing. I'm pretty sure it was penciled by John, or I'm thinking of something else maybe. But anyway, but I had some kind of book that John had done. And I was like, oh, this guy's insane. But he bounced around a lot. Like he probably did. I think he did a run on Superman, but you know, he had different inkers, and I don't know if like long like if it was I don't know. You know, by the time I was collecting comics, I wasn't hearing about him very much, unfortunately, because he was real good. He was still working at that point. This is John Romita Senior. Okay, so I did pull the senior page. Okay. And this is nice. Maybe not as lush as like Royer or some of the other inkers. Like they might have used thicker lines. This is a little thinner, but it still looks real good. I think this is John Romita Senior. I apologize if I'm mistaken. This is John Romita Jr. And this is awesome. I'm telling you, Romita Jr. is the double page spread king. At least one of them. This dude is a savage with double page spreads and does so many. I don't know if he asks for them or if the writers just know from like checking out his other work, but he does more double page spreads than I think any other penciler that I've seen. Who's this? This is John Romita Jr. too. The white line through the tips of the things. This is John Romita Jr. too? Yeah. Running down a tech tunnel. This almost has a little bit of a Joe Madureira flavor, or like Carlos Pacheco. Maybe they were inspired by this work, though. This is John Romita Jr. Dan. Very, very iconic cover. Double-sized issue. Twice the fun. 1985. John Romita Jr. from a slightly different era. Way more detailed. Rare that you'll see Romita with this much lines. Although he can get quite detailed, but... Let's see, what issue is this? Do I have the year? I didn't put the year. This is from X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 307. This is pretty detailed. I would say this is a lot of detail. John Byrne. Is this head a stat? What is going on? I think... I don't know what is going on here. It's weird that these lines just end right here. But I think it's cut out like this, and it comes across here, and then where's the other cut? I don't know. It's weird. Okay. Whoa! What is this? This is scary. Whoops! I didn't mean to do that. Who's this? Is this Romita Jr.? Oh, this is John Byrne, Dan Green. Okay. I'm going to brighten this just a little bit. It's a little dark. Good as new. I like the shot, like the buildings, like I like that we feel low in the scene and we get to see like the buildings like this. It creates a nice sense of space. This is all really cool. Okay. This is John Byrne and Dan. Again. Oh, this would be expensive. Dennis Wool. I feel like I think Dennis Wool might have been my editor at one point. I never worked at Marvel for any extent of time, but I wondered if Dennis, or maybe this is Denise Wool. I guess it is, unless Dennis is spelled weird. Anyway, or Dave Wool? What was that? I worked with someone with the last name Wool. I thought it was Dennis Wool. Maybe it was Dave Wool. This is Byrne too. This is nice. Really, really good. Super clean. Very accurately done. Nice Sabretooth. Nice Iron Fist. Cool fight scene. I talked about fight scenes yesterday for my Patreon, but I can reiterate what I was saying here. But this is a good example of a good way to do a fight scene is to have stuff spilling out of the panel. Like when things are too comfortably placed inside the panel, the fight scene immediately slows down. But what you'll notice is like his head is going out of it. This guy's body, there's overlap where you don't see his face completely. This shot, you don't see his other arm. You know, his legs are gone. This guy's other shoulder and arm is outside the panel. This guy's hand is out. This too, although this is really, really close to like a bad tangent. I'm not the tangent police, but in general, you would probably want to avoid having your fingers end so close to a panel border. These would spill out technically a little bit more, but same thing. I mean, it's a lot of stuff squeezed into these panels in a very claustrophobic way, and it creates some chaos, and that's really what you want in a fight scene. If it's too literal and stuff is too apparent, it can look a little like off, but this is all done very, very well. But he's John Byrne. This is really great. Wow, man, I love this. Woo, this is a nice John Byrne page. Damn. I hate to be a sucker for like good backgrounds and perspective, but I don't know. Ever since I was a kid, man, anything that looks 3D, like three-dimensional, like on paper, I've always been so impressed by. But man, this is so cool. I love that you've got this upper space with the support beam or whatever going across here. You've got this little ledge. You've got this little ledge here. The shadowed kind of into the unknown. There's this little window or peephole here, and then the stairs going down. It's just so cool looking. And then this is great too. This low shot with the gargoyles, and this is fantastic. This is all just, this is good shit. The Demon, man, what a great page. There's no characters on it. I would buy this. I bet this was expensive though, but sometimes pages like this will sell for cheaper because there aren't characters on it. Although there's a little bit. I don't know if this is a statue or if this is I think this is some kind of statue that fell. But sometimes a page like this could be cheaper because there isn't the character so prominently displayed. I thought this was great too. This is another John Byrne page, but man, Byrne pulling the perspective shot. This is fantastic. This looks like something like Mobius would do, or some of those really good like European things. But I thought this was great. Somebody'd have to check out this Blood of the Demon book because this looks pretty cool. I bet reading it's even better. Actually, it was interesting too for me. When I got into comics, I was not interested in westerns at all, and in fact, probably in the back of my mind, I kind of thought it was corny, like old-fashioned. But as I got a little older and kind of got more into, I don't know, art and story and stuff like that, the Old West actually is a pretty fertile playground for some really good comic book stuff. So I was wrong on that opinion, but I it changed a long time ago now. But these are interesting. These are Sharpie buildings. Like that's a Fat Boy Sharpie. They call it fine point, but that's the thick Sharpie for sure. Faux show. That will turn blue, bluish purple down the road. This is the same pen. It's an effective size pen though. That's the bummer about it. I think Micron or Copic multiliner, they should create a thick pen that's basically the size of like a fine point Sharpie. I mean, I guess you could do it with a Copic multiliner, but yeah, there's something about the Sharpie pen tip that, especially when it's new, and you can get a real accurate line. I mean, that's perfect for that. This is all great. You feel lazy when you like I've only used it maybe a couple of times on just sort of oddball jobs where I had to get something done, nothing like important. But yeah, you always feel like you're like, "Ah, man, I'm going to use a Sharpie on this." It's a little cringe, but it gets a perfect thickness line for some stuff. I hate to say it. A lot of times what I'll do though if I do use Sharpie is I will go over it with India ink, which is just so that if in fact over years the Sharpie would have problems, the black ink over it should withstand the fading. This is great. I like her. Man, he really draws her great. Nice solid inks. Again, very, very expensive page, I'm sure. More Byrne. This is cool. It was interesting seeing some of this stuff because there was a few times seeing the John Byrne stuff that I was reminded of Aaron Weisenfeld, and I never pegged Aaron Weisenfeld as like a John Byrne fan, but this looks like it could be right out of Team 7. And even some of this, I know Aaron was a big fan of like Atomo and a big fan of Walter Simonson, a big fan of Barry Windsor Smith, but I don't know, and Neil Adams because he worked at Continuity. But man, this is great shit. I like this John Byrne stuff better than the X-Men. I really do. The X-Men stuff to me always feels a little, I don't know, like I don't know. This is more interesting. Different layouts. It's not. I don't know. Sometimes the X-Men books to me feel like just a lot of characters standing around. Once you have a team book, you have to sort of like, it's 7 people standing in a room talking with like 5 people in the background just standing around most of the time. This is cool shit. This is funny. I don't know why it's fixing that. This guy right here. He's got big boots too. He almost looks like Kilowog or whatever his name is from the back. I mean, I know Kilowog isn't a cow or a bull, but what is Kilowog? A hippo? Here we go. Motorcycle Wolvie. Man, that face is so Buscema. Alright. This is a long video. A good one. Ooh, this is beautiful inks here. I like this. It's hard to do a technique like this and actually have it really fit in with some pages. How it works for Dan so well is the fact that because there's an organic quality to a lot of the stuff that they do, this doesn't stand out like a sore thumb. But if you have real tight, slick inks, and then you throw just like dry brush on like one leg randomly, it can really be kind of jarring and not completely like feel part of the work. But it actually works pretty good here. So there's enough chaos going on here. But he didn't use that technique anywhere else on the page. Now, I'd be curious if through that issue, if he used it on her all the time, because sometimes I'll allocate a technique like that on that. So let's see, this can't be Mark. Oh, John Buscema, Marc Silvestri, and Dan Green. Odds are that this is Buscema and Dan, and they just threw the Marc Silvestri name on it is like a meta tag on Heritage. They'll do that occasionally where they'll put like who you might normally think would work on a project, but the description will be accurate. It's a little bait and switch, but yeah, my guess is this is all Buscema. Unless Buscema did the girl and Mark did the robot. I mean, that's possible. This is Buscema. Or wait, is this? So this is credited as John Buscema, Dan Green, and Joe Chido. Obviously, Chido is known as a colorist, but Joe actually was an illustrator before he became super famous for his colors. So this one's a bit of a... I couldn't tell you, but I'm assuming it's Dan's inks over either Buscema or Chido's pencils. It could be that it was John Buscema breakdowns, Joe Chido finishes, and then Dan inks. That if I was gonna speculate, might have been what happened. This is probably the same pair up. It's nice stuff. It's cool. This is nice. Interesting inks. Well, hopefully you all learned a lot from this. Not from what I said. I mean, just looking at the art. Take what I say with a grain of salt, to be honest. And like I said, I always tell people, if you disagree with me, it's fine. You should have your own opinion on this stuff. I don't push my narrative on others. You do you. That's what I say. You can make your own mistakes. I've made plenty. All right, Madureira. I have a friend who inked some Joe Madureira around this time, and he was like, I've got those pages somewhere. I'm like, dude, like those pages are probably pretty valuable. I know you've had them in a closet for 30 years or whatever, 35 years, but those might be worth some money. Don't lose your Madureira pages, that's for sure. He's still quite popular. This is Mad too. This is Mad. Wait, is it? Yeah. You can see the Art Adams in this a little bit more. Is this? Oh, let me make sure. Yeah. Uncanny X-Men 313. This is from 1994. It's funny to see him pulling in so much Arthur Adams. Not that I didn't know it, but what I'm saying is, real quickly, you know, who knows, maybe like right after this issue or real close, he starts to bring in way more of the, we'll call it anime, manga influence. I think for him it's mainly anime, but... Alright, this is Jim Starlin, and then Dan Inks. Pretty cool piece. It's a shame that the cap head is statted. Or whatever they did, I can't even tell. It always makes you wonder, like, how different was the original head? Sometimes they're way worse. Like, if you have the opportunity to see what was originally drawn, sometimes they are. Sometimes it's not noticeable. Like I said, those Mark Buckingham pieces, the one in particular, I really couldn't see much of a difference at all. Neither really looked that much different. The other one, I could see where Dan got a little stylish with the clothing, and it might have felt a little too non-committal in terms of form. But yeah, the other one, I actually thought what Dan did looked better, or what I believe to be Dan's work was better. This is nice. Real big Colossus. This is Silvestri. Kirby. Jack Kirby. Let me just double check to make sure. Yeah. How many more pieces do we have? I'm getting tired. Oh boy, got a lot. All right. Hang on tight, friends. If you've got drugs, take them. No. I think my nose is super congested today. I don't know if, like, after the rainstorm that we had, if, like, stuff is, like, drying out now, but my nose being stuffy isn't making this any easier. Kirby. Oh, this is interesting. So this is really, really early Howard Chaykin with Dan Green inks. And I mean, I'll tell you right now, if you showed this to me and said, who do you think penciled this? I would never, ever guess Howard Chaykin. I think this is 1977. And I actually have the pencils. If not for this piece, for another one. But isn't that funny? It's... This should be encouraging. I mean, the thumb is not even, doesn't even make any sense on this hand. Like, he has no idea what he's doing right here. But that's how we all learn, you know. You can see the Frazetta too, like, telling you all these guys wanted to be Frank, or if not Frank, someone that probably was copying Frank. But yeah, this is basically like fan art almost. I don't know if they were professionals, and look, it's possible that this was done very quickly at a show, and maybe Chaykin could actually draw great at this point, and he just reluctantly took a commission. It's hard to say. Here's the pencils. Oh, I see. So it's Dan did the finishes on it more, but like the fist is non-existent here, and this is, the thumb is still at a very, very weird angle. It's not really holding this. It is closer though, honestly. Like, I'm putting my hand in that position, and the thumb, this thumb is actually slightly more on point. But yeah, this looks like just a quickie. Interesting nonetheless. But yeah, it's crazy. Blood on the sword. This funny. All right, let's continue. This was another one they did. Oh, 73. Okay, so it's even older. Wow, 1973. Crazy, right? This has a bit of a Jeff Jones vibe. No idea what Jeff Jones was doing in 73, though, to be honest. But anyway, kind of fun. Here's some of that Shogun Warriors, or what's this called? Yeah, Shogun Warriors. This is from 79. So weird. And this is pencils by Herb Trimpe. I really like the Shogun Warrior design. In particular, I always thought Raiden, or Raideen, however you pronounce his name, looks super cool. I remember seeing the toy at some point. Pretty cool. This is, I think, Trimpe too. Or is this? Yeah, Herb Trimpe, Dan Green. Godzilla, Devil Dinosaur, Moon Boy, original, 1979. Looks very Kirby. All right. Who's this? We'll just look to see. This is Trimpe too. Next will be George Perez for a couple of pieces, so check that out. Perez is always crazy. Oh, this is nice. Wow. And this, honestly, if you just showed me this, I would probably guess John Byrne, to be honest. But I'm not... I don't know Perez or Byrne's work that good, but it almost, like, it reminds me a tiny bit of what I pictured John Byrne from around this era. It looks like maybe a little more detailed, but maybe there's similarities that even people that are fans would know. It's a nice, really nice page. Are they drunk? Better red than Ronin. Oh, they had a jigger of brandy and some dry wine. Jigger. No one says that anymore. They just call it a shot. This is Perez too. cool. Cool face. Destroy. Quick, turn it to destroy. This almost looks like a Shogun Warrior. What is this? Were the Shogun Warriors in Avengers? Maybe they were so hot, they just Marvel had their own versions of them. I don't know. I've never seen the book. This is Gene Colan. This is a great page. Man. Super, super cool. Look at these crazy word balloons or thought balloons. The loopy bloopy borders. It's crazy, right? This is nice. And this is cool too. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right. This is probably Colan still, because it's still Doctor Strange. That's nice. Man, that is really good, actually. Oh, I can't wait to look at that Michael Golden book. Speaking of Doctor Strange, although I don't know what's in the book, so I don't even know if there's any Doctor Strange art. I hope there is. Was it Doctor Strange 55? I think he did. So good. She's pretty. It's a. I always like when people can do like this amount of a slice of a girl's face and still make her look pretty. Like the eyelash looks cool. Oh, this is such a great pose. That is cool. I like his head coming back right here. This is a nice Iron Man too. Man, that is cool. So that should be Gene Colan, right? Yeah. Okay. This is Gene Colan. And Dan, of course. So you can see how much of a variety of work Dan did throughout his career. One day I'll be dead and some nice YouTuber will do a video on me. And it'll be the same way. They'll be like, look at all these different people Rich inked. I had no idea. Hopefully not too soon. Alright, what do we got? Ed Hannigan. Now, I don't know Ed Hannigan's name, but I think this is a pretty cool piece. I'm a little confused of where this guy's body is. That's right here, unless he's coming out of the ground. Like if his from about his rib cage down is in the earth. But yeah, past that, it's pretty cool. Dedicated to the Long Island oysters. And this is 1978. So again, like I said, the earliest stuff that I could find, and Dan did finishes on this piece. It says was 77. As far as I remember. This is 78 also. And this is Dave Wenzel. Not familiar with Dave Wenzel either. It's always weird to think, like, and now Dave Wenzel may have gone on and done many, many comic books after this. That I can't be sure. But it is interesting when you see people that were in comics for, a few issues and then left for whatever reason. You kind of wonder, like, did they go back to like civilian life and just take a normal job, or I'm sure some did at some points, because even musicians, there's all kinds of people that were famous musicians that you end up going back to work. Oh, sorry. This is, I didn't even read it. Dave Cockrum. This is weird. I think this was on the back of the board of the page that we just saw. Pretty crazy. Luckily, it didn't seep through the art. But, yeah, I think this is the back, and this is like they stamp the art return. This would be October 1977. They may have given it to someone as a gift. This was cool. This is Carmen Infantino, I think, or is it Cockrum? Carmen Infantino. Always down for some good Star Wars art. I love Star Wars. Especially this vintagey stuff. So this was done in 79. The R2-D2 is pretty cool. This almost has a little bit of like a Walter Simonson vibe. No, that would be interesting. Was Carmen Infantino an influence on Simonson, or was Simonson an influence on Infantino? This is Carmen too. The next two are Carmen Infantino. Then we get into a couple of Byrne Wrightsons. Yeah, Carmen Infantino is really good. Super, super solid artist. Man, this is like really, really nicely drawn. This guy is like legit. Beautiful inks too. Alright, so this is Byrne Wrightson. It's not super recognizable as Wrightson. I can tell you the year of this. I think I put it on one because I was tripping. So this is 1988. Not 100% sure what Wrightson was going for at this point in his career. If like he felt like maybe he wanted to try to do something a little more in line with what normal comic books look like. The job offers may have just gone that way, where they're like, "Hey, do you want to do Superman?" He was like, I'll do Superman." I can't remember if Wrightson is a superhero fan. I kind of vaguely remember him saying that maybe he wasn't as much. In fact, I'm almost sure that he said it in an interview that I heard just recently. Or maybe not a fan of drawing superheroes. He does like them, though. He doesn't dislike them, to be clear, but I think he leaned more towards the stuff that, fantasy and that horror. Not just based on his work, but just, I think, what he liked to read. This is great. So this is... Oh, I already said, but... Andy Kubert. So... The Kubert stuff is real good. Andy's great. This would have been done in like 2005, 2006, I think. It's a really cool face. Kind of Casada-ish. This is Andy Kubert again. Beautiful drawings. Man, they're good. He's on the rocket. Rocket to where? Where are you going, man? Alright, this is Al Williamson, Blade Runner. With Dan Zinks, of course. It's a nice Harrison Ford face right there. He really got the likeness. Good. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pooped. This wore me out. This was a lot to go through. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We should be getting real close to the end here. And have a great day. I'm just wrapping it up. We'll go to the end. This is Kubert. Is this Adam? Andy? Let's see. Adam Kubert. Oh, okay, so we got a whole bunch of Adam Kuberts. Okay, so he inked Adam more than Andy, I think, then, based on the quantity of things. That's cool. And look, he got this imagey style pretty down. I mean, this is kind of an early iteration of it, like the way that he's doing it. It's a little bit of a mix of the old and new, but still really on point. Keeps that organic. Now this is a little more that high end thing. Crazy. So weird to see how comic art progressed. It's actually really interesting. I don't even know, like, at this point, like I'm not even sure where I stand on the whole evolution of comic art. I was thinking about this yesterday because my tastes have changed over the last couple of months, and yeah, it's weird. Like, I kind of like I'm looking at stuff with fresh eyes. It's always weird when that happens, but I've sensed a shift, a shift in my interests. It happens. I'm an artist, like, not stagnant. This is cool. This is nice. I think I collected this issue. I kind of remember this thing. And again, the way that Adam is drawing does remind me a tiny, tiny bit of Joe Quesada at this time. Just a little tiny bit. Some Jim Lee too, but yeah, get a little Quesada in here. All right, that's it. Wow, that was insane. It was funny as I was almost gonna go back into StreamYard, like it was it felt like a super fun Sunday. It was so long, but look, you guys have a great day. Rest in peace, Dan. I mean, like I said, I really can't, say enough great things about your work and how much of a fan I've been of it for, like 25 years now. Obviously, I don't go back, as far as some people, but once I saw it, I mean, I immediately liked it. It's always been something that I wish that I could do or had more in my work, and it's just, you had such a unique voice. So rest in peace, and thanks for everyone for tuning in. There's no ads, no monetization on this video. It's just for fun and to watch. And yeah, all right, I'm gonna take a day or two off from the YouTube, and I'll probably be back on Sunday. And we're gonna be doing Heavy Metal Magazine, late 70s, early 80s. So we're creeping up into the next era of Heavy Metal Magazine. Should be really fun. And come hang out with Kelsey and I then. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.